Thanks for joining me again as we dive into another great classic film. The reason I first watched this movie was because of my admiration for the director, and while it had many of the hallmarks of his other great films, the thing that really won me over was its humour. It's a surprisingly funny film that exists inside a compelling story with great black and white cinematography and some fabulous performances. It is Yojimbo from 1961. The inspirations for this film are many and varied. Kurosawa said that a major source for the plot was the 1942 film noir The Glass Key, an adaptation of Dashiell Hammett's 1931 novel of the same name. Kurosawa was equally influenced by American westerns High Noon and Shane, and also said that Yojimbo was based on the Dashiell Hammett novel Red Harvest. Red Harvest is the story of a detective who arrives in a small city intending to bring into conflict the proponents in a gang war in the hopes that they will annihilate each other, which is the main story of this film. However, the scenes where Toshirô Mifune's character is held and beaten were taken from The Glass Key. Yojimbo is Japanese for bodyguard and is the name most commonly given to the character portrayed by Toshirô Mifune. However, when asked, Mifune's samurai calls himself Kobutake Sanjuro, a false name, which is why many consider this character to be the first man with no name, a convention later reprised by Clint Eastwood in A Fistful of Dollars. Kurosawa typically worked with the same actors again and again, and for this film casts regulars Toshirô Mifune in the central role, Takashi Shimura as the sake brewer, and Tatsuya Nakadai as the gunfighter. Kurosawa directed Mifune to play his character like a wolf or a dog, and instructed Nakadai that his character was like a snake. Inspired by this direction, Mifune came up with Sanjuro's trademark shoulder twitch, similar to the way that a dog or a wolf tries to get rid of fleas. For this film, Kurosawa made a conscious effort to change cinema's approach to on-screen violence. He wanted to show the damaging effects of violence rather than the sanitised way in which it had been depicted in the past. Kurosawa asked his assistant directors to come up with a striking image that warns Sanjuro that he's entering a bad town, but rejected their ideas due to their lack of originality, instead choosing to show a dog running across screen carrying a human hand. Kurosawa asked his sound engineer, Ichiro Manawa, to come up with a sound effect to be used when a sword is cutting and killing someone. After testing out slicing a sword into beef and pork, he finally found the perfect sound was achieved by putting 2 wooden chopsticks inside a raw chicken and hacking it with a sword. Composer Masaru Sato had only 1 week to compose the film's entire score, and was instructed to write whatever he liked, so long as it was not the usual samurai film music. Sato, inspired by one of his idols, Henry Mancini, incorporated lots of drums, traditional Japanese flutes and other instruments, along with American big band sounds. The result feels discordant, as if half the band was playing in the wrong key. Its purpose is to give us an insight into Sanjuro's mind, which is playful and inconsistent yet determined. Like many Kurosawa films, rain is used as a device to illustrate drama and to highlight the character's discomfort. Windy weather throughout the film represents how chaotic life is in this town. The massive plumes of dust seen blowing about were brought in by truckloads to feed the wind machines, and the actors found it nearly impossible to keep their eyes open during shooting. When Tatsuya Nakadai was shooting his death scene over the course of 3 days, the combination of the fake blood and the blowing dust made him break out in hives that lasted for weeks after filming. Yojimbo was released in Japan in April of 1961 and subsequently released in both a subtitled and a dubbed format in the United States in September of the same year. This was Japan's 4th highest grossing film of 1961, making it Kurosawa's greatest domestic success, earning 351 million yen, which adjusted for inflation is close to $144 million. The film was so successful that Kurosawa's next project was ultimately called Sanjuro, and had to be revised to accommodate Toshirô Mifune's title character. Tatsuya Nakadai also appears in the film as the main villain. Yojimbo was the name most commonly given to Mifune's character in Zatoichi Meets Yojimbo from 1970, which starred Shintaro Katsu and Mifune in the title roles. Although Mifune is clearly not playing the same Yojimbo. Incident at Blood Pass, also made in 1970, stars Mifune as a Ronin who looks and acts similarly to Sanjuro and is referred to as Yojimbo throughout the film. Both in Japan and in the West, Yojimbo had an influence on various forms of entertainment. It was an obvious inspiration for Sergio Leone's A Fistful of Dollars from 1964, Django from 1966, and Last Man Standing from 1996. All 3 films follow a similar plot, despite taking place in very different times and places. The film's cinematography, which often shows Mifune as a lone hero in a wide frame, influenced many of the westerns that followed it. Mifune's character became the model for John Belushi's samurai Futaba character on Saturday Night Live. Its influence can be seen in a number of Star Wars films. The original Star Wars has a cantina scene that is clearly influenced by Yojimbo's cantina scene. Luke Skywalker is accosted at the bar by Ponda Baba and Dr. Evazan, who tell their crimes in the same way that Sanjuro is confronted by gamblers who try to intimidate him. Star Wars The Last Jedi has Luke Skywalker dressed like Sanjuro, with both characters framed in wide shot and portrayed as lone heroes who have to deal with a larger threat on their own. Empire magazine ranked Yojimbo as the 95th greatest film of all time. It was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Costume Design, and Toshirô Mifune won Best Actor at the 22nd Venice Film Festival. Michael Wood in the London Review of Books compared it to films such as Seven Samurai, A Fistful of Dollars, High Noon, The Outlaw Josie Wales and Rashomon, stating that the film contains comedy, satire, folktale, action movie, western, samurai film, and something like a musical without songs. It is funnier than any western from anywhere in the world. Japanese film magazine, Kinema Jonpo, ranked it as the 23rd greatest Japanese film of all time. It is included on Roger Ebert's Great Movies list. So lots of great reasons to watch this film. It's probably Kurosawa's most playful film and an interesting and influential take on the western. Great performances from all these actors, beautifully shot in black and white. So, what I'd encourage you to do is go to our website, find our virtual screenings page, find the link to this particular film, click on it and watch it. As always, see what you think. We'd love you to come back, share your thoughts about the film and whether you'd recommend it for other people also. And then we're back in the not too distant future for our next classic films review. Catch you next time.